on our Monday Rising Phoenix business community call. It's just really becoming a cool community, connecting with people in between. But I want to welcome you. I'm Sandy Corrigan. I'm one of the co-hosts with
Tom Corrigan
and Mr. Mountain in the background. You're muted.
Chuck Blakeman.
You're muted, man. Chuck Blakeman's muted.
Moving on.
But I'm muted. Sorry about technology, but I'm trying to figure out how to screen share because I'm locked out. Nobody loves me anymore. So
no, you're locked out.
I'm trying to interrupt this regularly scheduled program with something funny, and I can't because it says the host has disabled screen sharing. Megan, you don't like me anymore. Oh, wait a minute. I think she.
I don't know why that's happening.
Oh, sure.
Oh, sure. She doesn't know why that happened.
I found out just how much power she has.
Hey, well, oh, there it is.
All right. So this is how we're all going to look after 2 months of cutting our own hair. I'm sure some of you already feel that way. And I put my wife in charge of going to the store for us. So I bought her this to help her go to the store for us. It just seems safer. And then, interestingly enough, news on Friday. Yeah, bees are preparing for the murder hornets. They've got Jim Beam whiskey. They've got Clorox, and they've got toilet paper. I mean, they got all the essentials. It's pretty cool. It's interesting. Yeah. So we're all doing that. And then, of course, yeah, you never have. The point here is you never have to look too far to find someone worse off than you. The bees are being attacked by murder hornets. And then finally, this is a new idea for products in the new economy. You know, it's one of the things we do on Monday mornings is look for new product ideas. This is actually already out there in Germany. People are wearing these hats to figure out if they're 6 feet from somebody. It just takes all kinds of things to spin a world, doesn't it? All right, that's our laugh for Monday morning. Back to you guys.
I did send this to you. The other one I like is the restaurant that put clear shower curtains around every group of tables. Yeah. So there's a lot of cool innovation.
Yeah, and there was one restaurant that actually bought period mannequins and dressed them up in 1920s, roaring 20s costumes and placed them at every table that they're not seating people at. And they actually have live drinks like that, martinis, and the waiters and the waitresses actually go by and take their drinks and put new stuff down. It's hilarious. Yeah, I can't remember where it is, but pretty cool.
Well, I went and got my hair cut last week.
Woohoo!
Look good, don't I? After I had to put on my hazmat suit at the door, she had her hazmat suit on, then she gave me a little space up here to be exposed, and she got my hair cut.
Well, it's a good thing we're finding stuff to laugh about. So yes. What are we doing? What are we doing today, Tom?
Gosh, here's what you can expect to happen. Something visionary and inspirational from people who've been knocked down and got back up. 2 or 3 people are sharing about how their present circumstances to adapt, pivot, and whatever you want to call it, and make lemonade out of lemons in just the last few weeks. Then we're going to have a bottleneck segment where you can present a challenge, opportunity, or problem that you're having a hard time getting your arms around, and you can really benefit from the wisdom of crowds. It's a 6-minute process that's amazing at how quickly you can get help from people from around the world. Chuck's going to give us a quick update on the new version of the survival version 8 already.
Big stuff. Big stuff.
Things continue to change, upgrade, morph, or you can use other words to describe the outcomes of the SBA and directions to us. We're also going to have a special guest this morning talking to us about the power of creativity in this time. And then we'll end up with some quick reminders about business community. And by the way, I'll just say it now, you can say it at the end, we're not meeting next Monday because here in the States, it's Memorial Day, and we're gonna take a break. That's our show.
Sweet.
Today.
So we named this the Rising Phoenix based on that mythological story about the bird that every 100 years actually chooses to fry up in a nest and emerge as something new and better. And certainly there are elements of my life. I was just kind of out with my horses yesterday thinking about the things that have changed, right? The new things that have come, which are exciting and positive and that I'm pressing into that are more meaningful. And then the things that, gosh, are gone that I don't even miss. Some I do miss, but many things that I don't miss anymore. And so this is a time to really embrace that, right? Settle into your nest and burn up the stuff that needs to go so the new stuff can emerge. And so on to you, Chuck.
On to me. It's
Well,
mine.
Well, we're going to introduce Catherine, but I thought it would be nice for you to talk about how you and Catherine met briefly, because this is a cool connection story.
Yes, it is.
You know,
Yeah.
before.
Catherine's going to come on and share a few things about creativity. You know, the whole purpose of this show, again, every Monday morning, is to start our week off with some good news, because the world is full of bad news, and we'll all be killed. Some of us more seriously than others. And it's just, you go out on the street and nobody's there. And we just want to start with encouraging news and community and building each other up. And I met Catherine on, I think, discussions that we were having on LinkedIn and maybe Facebook. I can't remember, but we connected. Seemed like there was some story there, and had a Zoom call with each other. And then Tom and Sandy and I and Catherine had a Zoom call together. And Catherine specializes in just the creative spirit and just figuring out how to be creative. And I think that's really important for us, because to me, that's one of the two things that make us human. One is awareness, that we're aware of our mortality and aware of things around us. And the other bigger thing in my mind is creativity. That we're creative beings. Every single one of us. Creativity is not a thing for artists. It's for all of us. So wanted to bring Catherine on, just share for a few minutes about creativity. And Catherine, we're just going to let you take it away. Or Sandy, do you have an intro for her?
Yeah, I just want to tell you a little bit about Catherine, because she trains courageous leaders. Hopefully we're all falling into that category, in teams, to apply the science of creativity. I love the use of those words together, Catherine, the science of being creative, to grow revenue, retain talent, and add innovative value in the face of change. So certainly relevant right now. And she spans industries. So she works with small business, but also she works with companies like Bosch and ZipRecruiter and banks and accounting firms and educational institutions. She's a keynote at South by Southwest. She's written 4 books, including her recent The Non-Obvious Guide to Being More Creative No Matter Where You Work. And her writing has appeared in publications like Psychology Today, The Washington Post. She's the founder of Sparkativity. So Catherine, we're going to ask you to bring us some sparks of fun and creativity this morning. Welcome. Glad you're here.
Thank you. It's great to be here. And I know there are certain instructions of how I'm supposed to speak and share. So do you want me to go with those particular instructions or guide me?
Well, we just want you to talk about what you're doing and how we can all pivot and be more creative during this shift, right? So we want you to bring what you do to this community this morning, and we're giving you a little bit more time than we typically do a story, because we want you to tell us about that, and we want to have a couple minutes to ask you some questions in the chat box. You can be throwing in questions to Catherine and then jump in to be able to ask her some as well.
Catherine, I'm a rebel. I think you should wing it.
Okay, well, you know, I like this idea of the rising phoenix, because a metaphor that I like to think about in general for the work that I do is the metaphor of the prairie. And for all of you who are in Colorado, excuse me, I haven't talked much this morning yet. I'm in New York right now, so a lot of people in New York don't really understand what the prairie means, but I'm actually from the Midwest, and I have a great affection for the native land of our country. And there's an interesting thing about the prairie in that every species works together to support the ecosystem. And that makes the prairie so strong when there are tornadoes, when there's flooding, when any number of harsh weather comes. It's because of those individual species working together that the prairie can withstand, and did withstand for so many years. Now it's kind of usurped in a lot of places, but there's some prairie still there, and it's coming back in a lot of restoration. The thing about the prairie, though, is that it very quickly accumulates dead leaves, dead brush, stuff that falls and starts to block the sun and starts to block the sun from new growth. And that in creativity is what I call the inertia of no. I think about organizations and even the world as a large ecosystem. But if we dial it down into an organization, if you have each individual working at their highest potential in your business, they're working together to create a strong ecosystem. But then there's that kind of inertia. There's these norms that develop. There are things that people say, like, we've always done it this way. Well, we can't do it that way. What if we fail? No, that's not going to work. We don't have the budget. Any number of things that stop us from thinking of a new idea. So the prairie, in that way, very quickly gets this junk that piles up and blocks new growth, just like organizations get very quickly junk that piles up and sort of stops growth. The prairie has a reset button, which, as you likely know, is fire. And when a prairie fire burns, it burns up all of those leaves and dead growth that is covering up the soil and keeping the soil too cold for new plants to grow. It also burns up bushes and trees that are invaders that can't withstand the prairie fires. And almost immediately after those fires happen, the new growth starts to come up. And there's no damage to the true species that belong on the prairie. So something that's been really inspiring me lately is this idea that we could look at the present situation in a way as the reset button, as this prairie fire, as this opportunity for new growth and for new possibility. Because you know what? As I said, in businesses, just like the prairie, all these leaves come, they block new growth. A lot of that has to do with the status quo in business, being afraid to break the status quo. But right now, the status quo is basically gone. And so we have such an opportunity to break through what I mentioned before that I call the inertia of no, which is anything that blocks new ideas from taking hold or moving forward. And we're sort of just like, a lot of those arguments are out the window right now, and it's a matter of survival. So we have this amazing opportunity. The teams, I've been talking to a lot of teams and a lot of leaders right now about how to harness that leadership and harness the potential of each individual employee to be able to come forward and create systems and strategies in organizations from small to large to be able to come back with greater force and greater opportunity than before. So that's just an analogy that I love from so many standpoints. I could go on for hours about how the prairie can inspire us in terms of organizational development and creativity, but I'll just leave it at that.
That's awesome. But it's so inspiring. A number of years ago, Sandy and I went to Yosemite, and we were walking through, I mean, these enormous, trees, and met a ranger along the way, and she was pointing out that some trees that had sustained, you can see this tree got on fire 500 years ago and 800 years ago, 1600 years ago. And the pine cones are about a foot long. And she explained to us that the cones never released their seeds until the temperature reached 150 degrees. So it actually needed fire to release the seeds for new seedlings. So kind of hand in hand with what that's, the current fires that we feel, in our personal lives and our businesses, if we would flip the coin as you're suggesting, can really clean out some of the brush.
So Catherine, do you have a couple tips for us in terms of how to step into that better perspective around being willing to burn up and experience something better?
Yes.
Because it doesn't feel so great in the process sometimes. Right?
No, it doesn't. And interestingly enough, I've done some research into setting burn fires in prairies, and they can be so, as you can imagine, they can be very stressful. Even people that are trained to set them, it's very stressful to do it because you want to be sure it goes correctly. So I think that's similar to the feeling now. It can be very stressful, yet if we look at it in the right ways, then we can move forward through it. And I will say one of my very favorite tips, it's really, really simple, but it takes training for us to do it. It takes us training our thinking to do what I call think in possibility. And I talk about this concept called the possibility question. And creating a possibility question is actually very, very easy if you know a few magic little words. So let's just say we have a challenge, and the challenge is we can't serve our regular customers right now. That's a challenge for a lot of businesses, right? Our revenue has dried up. We can't serve our regular customers. Maybe you're a restaurant and your regular customers come into the dining room and you can't do that. So that's the problem. We can't serve our regular customers. You can so easily turn it into a possibility question by simply adding the words, what might be all the ways? And I'll just type it in the chat box right here so everyone can hear. So what might be all the ways? What might be all the ways to serve our customers? What might be all the ways to serve a different set of customers? We just take that problem and open it up with those 6 words. And all of a sudden, instead of being at a dead end, we have a place to think. All of a sudden, that question is open and we can start thinking about the possibilities.
So let's do that, because normally we start our call with like some interaction with the audience. So pop in the chat box and maybe let's spend 30 seconds to jump in and let's create what are all the ways we could serve people right now. Let's engage the wisdom of crowds. What might be all the ways we can serve our customers right now?
Great
Our
question.
clients right now. Fine, you guys are creative.
I just pop that into the chat box. And are you thinking just in terms of each person's business, they can add in some ideas that they've
Put
done?
it in there. Think about your business. Pay us what makes you happy. Tom Fanning, I love you, man. I've been talking about that to people too. Well, what can you do? Right? Instead of getting into a thinking. In fact, last night I went to bed thinking about, I've got to focus on what are all the things I can do? What are all the things I have? Right? Because it's really easy to think about what I can't do right now or what I can't have. So what else? You guys can pop in, you can say it, exchange of services. So like,
Yeah, hit your space bar.
yeah. Hey, Harrison, what do you mean? Exchange of services.
Sure. So if you have a customer who has expertise as an attorney or some other contractor or freelance service that your business could make use of, accept that as a form of payment for your services instead.
Yeah, we're back on the prairie bartering. I love this. We're going back to primitive times where things can work, right? What else? Oh, selling coupons for future use. And we're going to hear from Stephen about that, right? About his business. What else? I love that idea of exchanging. What do I have that I can give you and that you could help me with? Very excited about joining networking meetings all over the world. It's like traveling from your couch. Mark said, find out what businesses your clients are in, do a recorded Zoom call with them, have them ask their clients what questions they want to know that the players on the Zoom call would like to know, record and send out the link to the clients. Who else was going to jump in just a minute ago?
What I wanted to say that I think in the new era, in this social distancing, where we can't do the storytelling in the video productions business the way we used to. So, but it's not my need to sell the video service, but each business has to support themselves through the storytelling. So how can we use storytelling now in the new ways, which doesn't require the same social distancing and still support all of us?
Great.
Yeah.
Moving from in-person to online. One more. Build strong relationships with people who are willing to use the internet.
Yeah.
Provided virtual guided care for clients.
Call somebody.
Yeah, get on the phone. In fact, I made a phone call last week instead of a Zoom. It was just a different experience because we are getting Zoom fatigue.
What's that like?
It was nice. It was nice. I said, I'm not going to Zoom you. I'm going to call you. Okay. And it was really nice. So call, Zoom, whatever. Great. So you can keep adding them in there. We're going to move on because we've got some more encouraging stories of change and shift. And so, Tom, you want to introduce our next
You bet.
speaker, Catherine? Thank you. Please put your contact information in the chat box so that people can find you and engage with you. And we love what you brought with us this morning, to us this morning. Thank you so much.
Will do. Thank you so much.
I love the simplicity and power of creative thinking. Just boy, that one question is, I'm gonna be working through that
What are all the
week.
ways?
Thank
Yep.
you.
Thank you, Catherine.
Our next spotlight was on Stephen Smith, the owner of the Crock Spot. Glad you're here with us today, Stephen. Stephen joined a 3 to 5 Club in January. He had operated 2 food trucks, Crock Pot Food, which is a really nice alternative to the available for years. His 3 to 5 Club helped him through some bottlenecks to get funded for 2 brick and mortar bistros to go along with the truck story earlier this year. Woohoo! And then the $500,000 they got and spent on the restaurants were just opening in March when everything was shut down.
Wow.
Stephen did another bottleneck and hustled to get military contracts and others to increase sales from his trucks. He had his best month ever in April and has a new funder who wants to build more restaurants with him. Of all the 3 to 5 Club members you could have pointed at and assumed that would get hit the hardest, he would have been at the top of the list, but Stephen shifted and pivoted, and we want to hear the rest of the story. Thanks for being with us today, Stephen.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I didn't know that you had all that information. Someone gleaned it all from my meetings, I guess.
And I want to say we've tried to get you on for 2 or 3 weeks, but you've been too busy, which is awesome.
Yeah. It's been I've had some really good fortune this year. Like I know we were talking about the prairie fire, and everyone might be experiencing a prairie fire right now. I felt like I experienced my prairie fire in 2019, the whole year. And so some of the work I had done actually positioned me well to be able to take advantage of opportunities this year, including a pandemic. Because at the beginning of this year, I signed a lease for 2 cafes, and then I had the 2 trucks that were operating in a catering company. And by March 16th, that all just flatlined. They closed the buildings, and all of my events for the regular catering that I did all called in and canceled. So that was concerning, to say the least. But then I just got to work on working with my banker to make sure I was in on the first round of the PPP and the EIDL, which all came through. And then by early April, when I was cozy in quarantine, literally having a beer in my hand and doing Zoom calls with friends around the country, the military called from work that I had done previously about a year and a half ago, which I thought at the time was a waste of energy. They found us through the SAMS network and offered us the biggest contract I've ever had. So it's basically 3 times what a good month would be for 1 month. So for the last about almost 5 weeks now, we have been providing breakfast, lunch, and dinner for all the frontline COVID responders for the Army National Guard. So we've had to deliver all over the place, but mainly to the convention center where they have a makeshift hospital set up. And then they just keep extending it. And I think it's coming to a close within the next 8 days. But there's another possibility of another extension for 3 weeks in June. So I've had a lot of good fortune, and I really didn't have much time to quarantine like everyone else has. I've been very busy, though my bubble is small. You know, I go from here to the kitchen where I cook to the restaurant supply store to to the convention center. So because we do all the deliveries, but yeah, I've had some really good fortune, and it's also I've also decided to become more deliberate about getting contracts like these. So I hired a consultant to step us through how to present ourselves and market ourselves to different federally and state funded entities that award contracts like this.
Steve, that's a great example of rebirth and the rising phoenix right there, because you thought you were just 2 trucks and a bistro, and now you're two trucks, a bistro, and a bunch of federal contracts. And the 2 trucks were going to roam around Denver and do food, and now you're actually proactively going after major contracts. This could be a big thing that could just blow things up for you. Pretty cool.
Yeah, and I forgot another detail in the middle of it. I got a call from a developer who's my landlord where I'm building a restaurant, but it was stalled. He wanted to now become a partner and build 2 restaurants. So in addition to the 2 trucks, the 2 cafes, now I have 2 restaurants coming down the pipeline as well. And the military stuff.
That's incredible. Yeah, it's you didn't think outside the box. You just created a whole new box. Good for you, Steve. Any quick advice you give to the rest of us who are business owners about, some of us are still facing that flat line?
I think that perseverance, like the reason I was able to take advantage of some of these opportunities was because I had done work that I thought was fruitless, but really it wasn't. It just hadn't presented itself yet. So like 18 months later, I'm having the best month I've ever had in 10 years of being in business from an angle that I thought I'd just forgotten about and was a waste of time. So perseverance, I think, would be the best advice I could give.
That's a great word. Thanks so much, Stephen, for being with us today.
Yeah, congratulations, man. It's great to see a restaurant killing it. Love it.
And put your contact information, all of you, put your contact information in the chat box, and then you can save the chat box. We also save the recordings and the chat information on every episode on the website. So if you want to connect with each other, get your stuff in there. Thank you, Stephen.
I just want to talk for just a minute about a couple of words that I was working through this morning. I got up early and had some time to think without any distractions. And there are 4 words that kind of lead together and really tie in with both you, Stephen, and Catherine, what you brought for us today. And the first one was what Monday mornings can be challenging for some people. I try to get up and go, okay, regardless of what I'm facing or what I was hoping to face and not facing today, how can I make that shift? And the first word is gratitude. What can I find that I'm grateful for in my life? Because there are things. There's always things to be grateful for. And as I focus on that, it leads me to a sense of hope. And the definition of hope for us is the expected outcome of good. And hope, as I focus on that and allow it to take root in my heart, releases in me a sense of creativity. And that's the challenge to the status quo. How am I thinking, in a dead end way? How am I not thinking? What am I not considering? And the other aspects of creative thought, which then generally leads me to a place of innovation. Well, what about this? What else could I try? And who else do I need to talk to today? What else do I need to read? I need to go on YouTube and listen to some people who are much higher thinkers than me to get me out of this dead end place. And I'm not talking about hours of things. I'm talking about it goes through that in 6-7 minutes if I allow it and allow my mind and heart to be open to new things. And then I get to do this show and hear people like you, which really stimulates all that in me. So, if you're feeling like dead end, depressed, even hopeless, start with gratitude today, because it'll open up the doors to all the rest.
Thanks, Tom. I'm grateful for you. This has been an interesting journey working, like we've always worked together, and we're working together and living together. And so, yeah, we'll have a book out of this for any of you who are working at home with your spouse during this time. We might ask you to give us a chapter on that, right? So we want to move into the bottleneck section. And Sanjay, you did a bottleneck last time. So in 30 seconds, tell us what you've incorporated from doing that bottleneck last week.
I took good notes from you guys, and thank you for actually letting me speak last week and your feedback. So what majorly happened is I was able to because a ton of stuff on my plate, so I was able to just quickly say, okay, I can't do this task list. So there are 3-4 areas that I really need to concentrate on, which was script writing, business growth, client projects, and there was one more. I'm forgetting that right now. So what I was able to actually have an external deadline project, which took most of my time. I took on a project which I had never done before. So I had to learn a bunch of stuff for that. And the second thing is I also actually wrote script. So I was able to tackle two parts of my work. And I think one thing that happened is since I talked to you guys last week, I didn't want to be embarrassed this morning and say, hey, I didn't do anything.
That's great.
So I need to save my face. And I did some backyard gardening, a bunch of plants. Yeah, thank you.
That's a great point. And that's one of the things I love about whether you're in, you know, a one-to-one relationship with what we call accountability buddy, or in 3 to 5 clubs where you have people who will ask you how that's going. It creates a really positive kind of accountability to the things that we want to accomplish. And so, you know, thank you for saying that, because oftentimes if we're willing to set a goal and go public, right, put a date on it and go public, right, then things happen. And so thanks for that. So we want to know who has a bottleneck this morning of the millions of bottlenecks that you have in business.
Let's get them out there.
And remember, a bottleneck's an issue, opportunity, or challenge. You're going to take 1 minute to describe it. We'll take 2 minutes to ask you questions. You'll respond to those. Then we take 3 minutes for you to just mute yourself and take in what the wisdom of crowds has to offer. So who has a bottleneck?
Tremendous opportunity to get the brain trust of all these business owners to help you with your opportunity or your obstacle, either one.
And Tom's going to time and hold up the phone, and you'll hear a little ding, and we'll cut you off. So don't be offended.
Who feels safe to do one? Let's do it.
This is the point where if you're in the room together, you'd be throwing elbows.
That's right.
Be at the front of the line.
Do me. Right? Yeah.
So I have started back into the office this morning. I made sure to not see any clients during this hour. So as soon as we are done, my first client comes in the door. And I am being bombarded by a lot of other therapists. So I'm a sports massage therapist. And so I'm being bombarded by a lot of other therapists on what the correct practice is right now, whether you wear a mask, you don't wear a mask, you wear gloves, you don't wear gloves. In some counties, they're requiring a gown. And I had someone shared the other day that their client said, hey, you're going to be touching me for an hour. If you have it, I'm going to get it. And if I have it, you're probably going to get it. And so how, you know, I know this is something that we're all dealing with because it's viral related stuff, but how do I, you know, you can't change anyone's mind, and you can't ask anyone to be in one way that you're not, and vice versa. And so how do we as a community handle dealing with this bombardment from a lot of other medical professionals, one way or the other?
Okay, great. And so now we're going to take 2 minutes to ask you a bunch of questions, and you can jump in and put them in the chat.
Here we go. Clarifying questions.
So, Cindy, this is the problem that you're saying that other practitioners are asking you, or is the question for you to your clients?
Yeah, it's dealing. So I'm a little bit of a leader as a therapist in my community. And so I'm always trying to lead the way and be a good example for other therapists. And so, I mean, obviously it doesn't, what other therapists do is fine by me, and what I do is fine by me, but how do I respond to those? So for instance, I don't plan to wear a mask unless someone requests that I do, and they request that they wear one as well. And so that is just some bombardment from other therapists, some flashback that I'm dealing with, and I'm not quite sure how to manage all of that.
What about an indemnity agreement? Is that something that you've considered?
So let's just ask questions, and then Kim, when we get to solutions, you can present that.
Good one.
Okay.
Question from Tom Fanning. Is there already a defined protocol for all the practitioners that you have to, as a baseline?
there's guidance, but there's not a law.
Okay. Have you found best practices, or is that what you're trying to establish?
That's what I'm establishing based on, you know, the Iowa Department of Public Health, the Associated Massage Therapy and Body Works, and AMTA.
When you say that there are this backlash or questions coming, are you guys organized as a community or a group, or is this just an email that kind of comes to you randomly from somebody you know?
Yeah, it's Facebook messages, and then I have the most recent thing. I have a therapist that contracts out of my office, and she came to my home yesterday and kind of unleashed on me. And really, it was her anxiety and what she was dealing with. But you know, the thing that I'm trying to work out is how do I make sure that all of that external stuff that's coming in doesn't affect my one-on-one interaction with my clients.
Okay. So we're going to jump to solutions, Cindy. Thank you. We're going to ask you to mute yourself so that you're not tempted to jump in and respond. And all those will go in the chat box also, and you'll be able to listen to this again. You can take some notes if you want. So yeah, suggestions.
Hey, Cindy, I know that real estate is a different industry altogether, but our story here in Colorado got really jammed up when there was a realtor who had an open house and basically got some disgruntled people. He pushed the boundaries, bottom line, with his COVID, not wanting to do what the guidelines were. And it took one phone call from that disgruntled person to the Attorney General's office of Colorado to shut us all down. And so I would say that you are an example for your community of professionals. You probably ought to go the high road.
Thanks, Bart.
Well,
Next idea.
What I was going to say is that I think what you're doing is very, very courageous, honestly, because you are in the line of business, which actually does include direct touch with another person, so you can't really avoid it. So since you are having the courage to do it for yourself, and my thought would be, in this case, your inner guidance is the one that you would rely on, because everybody outside is going to have a different opinion, including me. But that's just our opinions and our fears. So you're going to have to constantly rely on your own inner guidance and do what you believe is right for you and your client, and let everybody else speak. We don't need to harbor any negativity toward others, because we all going to say what we want to say, right? So we're going to say, let it go. You do what you need to do. That's how you become a leader anyway.
Thanks, Sanjay. A couple other people said somewhat the same thing. Put in writing your best practices. This is how we're functioning today. You don't have to tell everybody how they should run their business. Tell them to make some of the decisions, to treat them like an adult. And then you have it in writing. You can send it out as an email or put it on your website, whichever you can do.
Hey, Cindy, I see this as an opportunity for you to even up your leadership in your community by pulling people together and maybe creating a forum like the Wisdom of Crowds with professionals. And to be able to be even a more united force in your community together, and be able to dig through that in a safe forum, and then be able to, you know, maybe I'll put your names to, like, hey, here's how we're handling this so we can keep you safe, et cetera, et cetera. So just a suggestion, not to be afraid of some of the people that might even have differing views, just figure out how to work through that and take a stand for your community. And then Kim, who started to say, have you considered an indemnity agreement? We're in a similar situation with lodging. And yeah, definitely an opportunity to own this next phase of your community.
Yeah, you can just say, here's possibilities. You know, one of us could get sick, but make an adult informed decision. We're out of time on that. Thanks so much, Cindy, for putting yourself out there. Hopefully you got something you can work with. We'd love to have you come back on next week and let us know, given what you've done with all this information. Thanks for everybody contributing.
So we have time for a second bottleneck.
We do. Who else has a challenge, opportunity, or problem you want help from around the world. And Cindy, would you put your contact information in the chat box, please?
Well, if we don't have a second one, I'll volunteer you, Sandy, because I know you're working on something fun with helping to overcome fear with using horses to partnership with.
Yeah, so I'll do mine. You know, we always
Cool.
say leaders lead, so I'll go. So some of you know we have a small ranch
Let
in
me start.
Elizabeth, Colorado.
Go ahead.
And we have 3 horses right now, and we are certified in equine assisted learning, which is basically working with horses in partnership to help people overcome obstacles, identify solutions for themselves. It's very unique, creative way of helping people move through. And this weekend, I started thinking about my own fear in terms of coming off my horse and my regaining courage to be able to work with the horses and ride again, and thought, wow, we're really in this opportunity where we could help people overcome fear. And so my own journey of the problem is becoming the solution, not only to myself, to other people. And so I'm wanting to market this and give people an opportunity to come out and charge for it and experience the kind of breakthrough that they can get in terms of overcoming their own fear with horses or with other things. So that's my opportunity, really.
Great.
All right.
We got 2 minutes of clarifying questions.
Anything I'm doing yet to market? Not really, Tom. In the past, I've done videos and blogs and things like that, but it's really like I've wiped the slate clean and said, how could I do that differently in this environment? So I'm wide open.
Cindy, I'm sorry, Sandy. Okay. Forgive me. Okay.
Sorry, we had a Cindy.
Sandy. Okay. Well, this is the same thing. Like, okay, I have the same thing. Okay, I want to do visual storytelling with a purpose, a meaningful way, rather than adding to the noise. So my thoughts are, okay, find those forums where, here's a question I had to ask myself. Okay, when am I going to speak? So answer to me was that I'm going to speak only when it matters, not just because, hey, I should send an email today so that I can get a client. No. And like I've been thinking of, okay, sending email to agencies, and my question to them would be, okay, how do we really tell the stories going forward? What can support you guys, right? Because what that happens, then that's a genuine thing that's coming from within, inside of me. Because I'm not just seeking, hey, let's give me your project. Yes, I want a project, that's fine, right? But it's much more fulfilling when it's both sides have a positive contribution. So for me, it's finding forums where I can speak meaningfully.
Kim, equine assisted learning. Yeah, I guess it would be more similar to life coaching, not therapy. I'm not a therapist, it's coaching. And contacted local organizations that also help people in those areas. No, haven't yet. Thanks for the question.
Okay, we have 3 minutes to offer opportunities and solutions. Let's start.
I think you should hire Sanjay to help you tell your story.
Thank you.
I've got a question that is almost like an answer. So if I could kind of ask them both at the same time, would you consider this marketing plan masterminding with another equestrian that might want to do the same thing?
Great idea. Thank you.
Yeah, because my friend Mary Keat, who has the riding class in Cherry Hills, I think would be totally on the same page with you, and you guys might develop quite a bit of energy consulting together on that.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris.
So also a clarifying question is
solutions.
And we're in solutions here, buddy.
Okay.
Lay it on us.
I'm looking for the answer to this question. That is, you are looking for not just horse riding people. You're looking to help people get past their fears,
Correct.
which is a whole big world. So my solution originally was go to rodeos, but that's not perhaps the people you're looking for. So I'm back to thinking. So sorry.
Quite all right. Les Simpson said contact him. He's got some people he can introduce you to. Thanks, Les. Anyone else?
My experience with millennials is they're really into experiences. They don't want bridal showers for their weddings. They don't want wedding gifts. They want you to pay for their zip lining. Oh no, I think I went dead. So if you could market it as an experience and also getting rid of the fear.
I love that. Thank you, Kim.
I have one. Can you guys hear me? I'm sorry. Okay.
Yep.
I have one other thing. There's a company out there in Denver. What they do, they're in the business of selling these kind of programs to other companies. And the guy, I knew the CEO, Wade, might be able to send it to you later, his name.
That'd be great.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Like a clearinghouse.
Well, they're not clearinghouse. They're kind of like a B2B. So they sell these kind of packages to other companies for their employees.
Thank you.
Right. Yeah.
And to put that together with what I just said, Airbnb has an experience thing to put packages together, and it's already done for you locally.
Tremendous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, that would be a very different bridal shower. Yeah, forget the toilet paper, dresses, and all that stuff. Come out and unleash yourself. So.
Thank you. That's awesome.
You know,
I'll report back next week.
Toilet paper's in short supply.
Yes, thank you. That's right. I get to work with men every Saturday, and we have been for about 10 years on some heart level stuff. And we say, when one man works, we all work. And it really applies to this kind of community as well. You know, I'm hearing you give solutions to other people. I'm going, I need to push into that. I need to grab some of that as well. I hope you are as well, because that is the value of community as well. So.
Thank you. I'll report back next week. And
please do.
If you want to sign up to be featured in terms of a pivot or shift story, again, this is not a time to, talk about what you have to offer. You can certainly do that in between, our meetings with one another. But it's really about shifting, innovating, pivoting, or someone that you would recommend to be on the Rising Phoenix show. We really want to know that. And also you can sign up to do a bottleneck. So if you know ahead of time, hey, we want you to start throwing elbows in terms of, hey, I want to do a bottleneck because it's so helpful. And so you can sign up on the website. You could also email us at grow@3to5club.com, grow@3to5club.com. So Chuck, we've got version 8 of the new Survival Guide. And so we're all going to try and put on our smartest part of our brain, because I'm sure you're going to tie us up in knots this morning, man.
Well, there's some big stuff coming through. On Friday, the SBA put out this tortured document, page after page after page. I won't even load it. So just awful. But here's how you're supposed to determine whether your PPP loan will be forgiven. I don't want to go into that because we got people internationally, but we're trying to save you from that. So in order to do that, we've developed this thing. Over the weekend, we put together a calculator, which looks just about as tortured, but is actually less tortured. You just fill in the green stuff. And this is just a scenario, but out at the bottom, it tells you how much your loan will or will not be forgiven. And it gives you instructions throughout to basically tell you how to wade through that awful document from the SBA. There's some other really great information that is coming out in version 8, and we've got that done. Megan's got that figured out, and it's ready to go. So if you want version 8 and the spreadsheet, they're going to be it's a twofer. Then if you're already on the emailing list to get the versions, you'll get the version 8 and the spreadsheet. If you're not on the email list, and you want to figure out how to actually get your PPP loan forgiven, then you need to put email us at grow@3to5club.com. Megan, if you want to put that in the chat box. Sign up for that right now because it's going out in the next half hour or so, and we'll just put out a bulk email on that. So you'll be getting this spreadsheet as well, and then feel free to pass that spreadsheet on to millions of other confused business owners who are going to find that they're totally lost trying to follow the SBA's guidelines. I don't know why they call them guidelines. They're just confused lines, I guess is what they should call them. It's just remarkable how out of touch we can all be at times, and me included, but the SBA certainly has a knack for it.
Thanks, Chuck. I think you got to send that on to irs.gov and say, here's an idea on how to simplify things for your lives as well.
Well, I'm sending it to a few bankers saying, feel free to use this, and I'm guessing they'll be sending it out to their customers.
Well, and if you have a CPA, we talked about this morning, you might have to pay them to help you do it. But honestly, if you've got a bunch of money on a PPP, it might be worth the investment to have somebody help you get the thing forgiven instead of have to take a loan, right? So thanks
Oh, it's
Chuck,
huge.
for all
Yeah.
the hard work. I mean, Chuck has been working hours and hours and hours, 7 days a week. I mean, not all day, but a lot of days to really provide this. So please use it and send it out to people and get them to sign up so that they can get this information. We have several people on the call. Melanie and Malcolm just got a bunch of money, right? Because they used the Survival Guide. Peter Brissett, we got a little bit, so let's help each other by getting that information out there. Share it on your Facebook and your social media sites too.
Chuck, if somebody has not applied for the PPP, is it too late for them?
No, that's the ironic thing. And that's something else that's in the guide, that people were being paralyzed about whether I should get one of these because the SBA had put out a threatening notice that said, we're going to audit all of you to make sure this was necessary. And if it wasn't, we're going to throw you in jail. And they backed off of that. They basically, FAQ number 46 on their website now is, yeah, we're not going to audit anybody under $2 million. If your loan was under $2 million, you have satisfied the question of whether this was necessary or not. We will not be auditing, so you can keep your loan. But a result of that was that people stopped applying. The second round was supposed to be gone in 2 days, and there's still $100 billion left. And out of the 350 billion that came out this second time. So there are many days left to apply, and you should be doing that immediately. Because again, if you get a $50,000 or $100,000 loan, at least 80% of that is going to be money you will not end up having to pay back if you just spend it on the appropriate things. And then the rest of it is at 1%. It's just some of the best loan money you can ever get. And again, we need to be prepared. We need to expect the best and be prepared for the worst. You need every money you can have right now, because every penny you can have, because we have no idea where this is going. We think it's going to bounce back, but it could end up in a very bad place. And so you don't want to be looking back 6 months or 2 years from now, and this thing took a dark turn, and you needed $50,000 and you didn't take it.
Wise words. Thanks for that advice. So if you've been sitting back, or you were thwarted because of the initial challenge that you were going to be audited, throw off those restraints and go get your help. It's money in the bank that you can use, because we don't know what's happening. We're expecting the best. We're expecting the upturn of the economy, and then other stuff can happen. So let's be prepared. I just want to shift just for a minute. This is the closest thing you're going to hear to an advertisement in our time together. Stephen, in our introduction to Stephen, talked about his participation in 3 to 5 Club. Many people on this call are already in 3 to 5 clubs. We've had conversations with a number of you as well who are not in this area. You don't have to be, you can be anywhere in the world and start your own 3 to 5 club if you're a business owner. We had great conversations with many of you. I'd like to talk to more of you as well. If you're interested in joining a 3 to 5 club, it is about community connection and the content that's, in my opinion, the equivalent of a good master's degree in business. You'll get through in 2 years of being in a 3 to 5.
So just FYI, our 3 to 5 clubs in the US, Ireland people, you guys can put yours in there when you are doing yours. are typically the first and third weeks of the month. So we have clubs going on this week. Chuck has clubs, Peter Brissett has clubs, John Geringer, Tom and I. And so if you want to join any
John
of those,
Hayes.
oh, John Hayes, well, I want the Ireland people there.
Uh-huh.
They may be on a different schedule. Yes, John Hayes and John Heenan and Porrick all have clubs in Ireland. And so we would love to invite you to come visit as a guest and see what that looks like and how that might be a fit, because we really are a niche that fits that small business owner very differently than a lot of other clubs. And if some of you, like Cindy, you know, is a leader in her community, if you like to lead and influence people in your community, this is a great way to be able to do that. And there is a revenue piece for you for that time, where many other networking kind of groups or clubs you might be involved in, but there's no, like, the organization makes money, but you don't for your time. And we love that Chuck has created a win-win in that for business leaders in communities, where that you can be compensated from some of your time for bringing 3 to 5 clubs there too. So I just wanted to clarify that, because I got a bunch of questions last week around, you know, why would I take time to do this other than just love people? And I'm like, well, because you can make some money doing it too. So, you know, let us know, grow@3to5club.com, or we'll stick our contact information in there. Or you might know somebody that wants to add a revenue stream and wants to provide leadership to small business people. So let us know how we can help.
What are some things we can look forward to in the coming weeks, other than next week?
So Chuck, you have somebody exciting coming on next week. who's
Rebecca?
I mean, next time, not next week, but
2
the
weeks
fol-
from now. Yep. After Memorial Day. Yeah, Rebecca Heiss is going to come on. She does some really great work internationally on being fearless and just what that means. And so we need some opportunity to get over this. I'm also inviting Tasha Urich, who's a friend of mine. She has a New York Times bestseller, and she's an industrial psychologist, and she's going to talk about fear and uncertainty and how we deal with those kinds of things and put the positive side on that. And then I'm still chasing down my buddy Tim Gard to come on. When Tim comes on, it'll be the end of me doing anything funny, because he's a globally a world-renowned humorist, and so we've got a lot of fun stuff coming.
Awesome. Thanks, Chuck. Let's close out as we usually do with what we call BFOs, blinding, flashy, the obvious, or your aha today, something you're going to consider more or put into practice.
and see if you can do a one-liner so we can get as many as possible.
You
So
can
jump
pop
in,
those
put
in
them
the chat box, or just pop on and verbally lay it on us.
So what's a BFO for you?
I think that for me, what Stephen said about perseverance, nothing is a waste of time.
Thanks, Melanie. And thanks for modeling. Short and concise. Appreciate it.
For me, it was Catherine's comment about the comparison with the prairie. That made a lot of sense. Thanks for that.
Thanks, John.
For me, it was what might be all the ways to, and I actually managed to brainstorm one of my problems and come up with a pretty good solution just during the call with that. What might be all the ways to?
Thanks, Jim.
Love the Prairie Fire, perseverance, innovation vibe is alive and well. My BFOs, this is the best way to start a Monday. My mouth is watering after looking at Stephen's menu. Thanks, Catherine.
Yeah, man. That is a good BFO to have.
Yeah. Be thankful for all the little things that go well every day, and accept that every day there will be things to work on, and give appreciation to your team members who help make things work the vast majority of the time. Thanks, Josephine.
Great comment.
Cool.
Last one. Do you have a reminder?
I did. I said mine was that this is the best way to start a Monday.
Yeah, it is.
How about you? Do you have a BFO?
I love starting Mondays in community. Love seeing your faces. I'm really appreciative of you taking the time to show up. You make this. Otherwise, the three of us would be having another chat together.
Yeah.
So
Which we love
thanks
to
for
do.
sharing that with us and bringing your brilliance and innovation and great participation to the rest of us. Thanks for all of those of you who brought us reminders. And again, thanks to you, Catherine.
And, we don't meet here next week, but there's nothing that says that we can't create community wherever we live or even via Zoom. right? And so we look at next weekend here in the US as gratitude for the freedoms that we still have, that we're fighting for. And so what are all the ways, Catherine, I'm going to use your question, what are all the ways that we can create community right now within our families, within our neighborhoods, you know, within 3 to 5 clubs, within businesses, within other community aspects, because each of you, each of us can be a leader in doing that. And we can create that spark of creativity and innovation to help others have hope right now. So we just, on that note, say thanks for joining us. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
guys. Have a great one. Have a great week.
You too.